is CNN.
Hello from CNN News Center in Atlanta. This is Prime News. I'm Natalie Allen.
And I'm Lyndon Soles. Thank you for joining us, everyone. A plane carrying Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 32 others crashed on a mountainside near the coast of Croatia today. There are no confirmed reports of fatalities or survivors at this hour. In the past few moments, we have received the very first pictures from near the rescue scene. The plane was flying from Tuzla in Bosnia-Herzegovina to Dubrovnik on the Croatian coast on a 45-minute flight. An American rescue team traveled to the site on foot after U.S. military helicopters were unable to land there because of weather conditions in the area. We were told it was the worst storm in the area in decades. Officials say there were no warnings of trouble from the plane, but it lost contact with the tower at Dubrovnik Airport. And as I mentioned, in a violent rainstorm, the Air Force T-43A, a military version of the Boeing 737 twin-engine jet, crashed into a small mountain about 2 miles from its destination. The plane was 23 years old and was last overhauled in June of 1995. For the very latest on the crash and reaction to it, we are joined now by CNN White House correspondent Claire Shipman. Claire?
Lyndon, good evening. As in most tragedies of this nature, it's been a day of confusing and incomplete detail, everyone looking for explanation and facts, but much of that, of course, hard to come by. Here's more of what we know so far. An extensive search and rescue operation is still underway in the mountains on the coast of Croatia. Pentagon officials say they've been working for hours to get to the remote crash scene.
There are helicopters on the ground at Dubrovnik's airport, U.S. helicopters that held about 50 U.S. personnel. Initially, they made an attempt to land at the crash site, but because of the weather, were unable to do that. And so they are, as rapidly as possible, working their way up to where the crash site is.
The U.S. says the chance anyone has survived is slim. The State Department even said Commerce Secretary Ron Brown is presumed dead, although quickly making clear that the formal position is he's missing. Estes says the crash does not appear to be the result of any hostile action. In Washington, President Clinton visited Commerce Secretary Ron Brown's family and then made a clearly heartfelt statement to workers at the Commerce Department about his good friend.
He was one of the best advisors and ablest people I ever knew. And he was very, very good at everything he ever did. Whether he was the Commerce Secretary or a civil rights leader or something else, he was always out there just giving it his all.
Mr. Clinton also brought a morale-boosting message from Brown's wife.
I asked Alma, I said, Alma, what do you want me to say when I go to the Commerce Department? She said, tell them Ron was proud of them, that he liked them, that he believed in them, and that he fought for the Commerce Department, and tell them that you're going to do that now, which I thought was an incredible thing.
Brown was on a mission of economic support to Bosnia. Traveling with him were a number of business leaders and corporation heads, but an official list hasn't been released. The Pentagon says there were 33 passengers aboard the aircraft, including a 6-person crew. Lyndon, here at the White House, most just seem numbed by the tragedy. Ron Brown was an extraordinarily popular man around here, and especially so with the president.
Claire, we've heard that there may have been a bit of an initial delay in the search and rescue effort because of concerns over possible hostile fire in the area, trying to get confirmation of that, but also the weather conditions were extremely bad. Was there any mention of that from administration officials?
No, their line really has been that the only delay was because of the weather, that they really could not land in the location. Right from the start, they were saying they didn't think it was the result of any hostile action, and that the weather was the biggest impediment to getting to the crash site.
And just very quickly, any word on when we're likely to get an official confirmation of casualties?
No, at this point they're saying tomorrow. Of course, the other casualties are complicated. There is a list, but they're trying to confirm it, trying to notify families, so I think we're looking at tomorrow at this point.
All right, a total of 33 people on board that plane. CNN's Claire Shipman at the White House. Thank you. Natalie?
Ron Brown's mission to Bosnia and Croatia was the latest in a string of trips he took with executives to boost U.S. business ventures abroad. His office says the trade missions have generated billions of dollars in new business. CNN's John Holloman reports on his latest mission.
President Clinton says Ron Brown's mission in the former Yugoslavia was a mission of hope for the war-torn region and of opportunity for American business.
He was so excited because he thought that along with these business leaders and the other very able people from the Commerce Department on this mission, that they would be able to use the power of the American economy to help the peace take hold in the Balkans.
The trip started in France for a meeting with the G7, trade ministers from the 7 top industrial nations, but got into high gear when the Commerce Secretary arrived in Tuzla, where he met with American GIs serving in Bosnia. He was accompanied by a group of chief executive officers of major U.S. companies who agreed to help restore Bosnia's buildings, its water and energy systems, its tourism, and even the banking system.
Secretary was over there to look at the new civilian implementation possibilities that we are committed to, the United States government is committed to through the Dayton Agreement.
Aides of the Commerce Department say the Secretary planned to help American companies secure up to $5 billion in contracts from a special international fund. That fund created at the Dayton Peace Accords to underwrite the redevelopment of Bosnia.
The purpose of the trip was to start our U.S. commercial presence in the region, to start economic reconstruction, to bring in U.S. companies in the development of the region.
12 executives were scheduled to go with Brown to Bosnia, but several didn't make it, including the head of the Virginia high-tech firm DynCorp. His company just won an $18 million contract to provide support for the UN civilian police mission in Bosnia.
If that country ever gets back on its feet again, we believe that our company, among other companies, can help them in that redevelopment.
The Commerce Department says Brown has traveled to dozens of countries over the past 2 years, advancing U.S. interests. Those countries included China, Chile, Argentina, Brazil, and India, along with South Africa. How successful was he? The department says his trips resulted in more than $42 billion in new business for U.S. companies. John Holloman, CNN at the Commerce Department in Washington.
And a bit later on Prime News, we will talk with 2 longtime friends and colleagues of Ron Brown, the Reverend Joseph Lowry of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and former Democratic Party Chairman Charles Manette.
Another major story we're following. A few hours ago, U.S. law enforcement agents took into custody a Montana man suspected of being the mysterious Unabomber, the man who has eluded police since 1978 during a campaign of 16-letter bombings. CNN's Anthony Collins joins us live from the Justice Department with the latest. Anthony.
Well, Natalie, FBI agents hunting for the deadly Unabomber have detained a Montana man described as a hermit. A neighbor identified him as Theodore Kaczynski. Law enforcement officials say that he is not under arrest, but he is being detained as a suspect. He's being held in custody in Lincoln, Montana. He's a bearded man who has been living for years in a cabin in Lincoln, Montana. He was detained by FBI agents when he refused to let them in to search his home. One law enforcement official told me, "We don't know if we have the right guy. That's why we needed to search his place to find out." A man identified as Theodore Kaczynski did graduate from Harvard in 1962, and the University of California at Berkeley says a man by that name taught in its mathematics department from 1967 to 1969. The neighbor identified or described Kaczynski as 5'9" with scraggly hair, often wearing a straw hat, having no automobile, and riding a bicycle into the town of Lincoln nearby to get his groceries. For 18 years now, the FBI has been searching for the Unabomber. At one point, it issued a sketch of the main suspect in their search. He's believed to come from the Chicago area, and that's where the Unabomber's attacks began. Over the years, 3 people have been killed and 23 have been injured in a number of attacks, including one in Sacramento, California. The Unabomber's manifesto was published last year by the Washington Post and the New York Times after he threatened to blow up an airliner. Law enforcement officials here at the Justice Department say that there will be no further information tonight. It's possible that tomorrow any information about an indictment or an arrest will be issued. Natalie?
Anthony, do we know how the FBI started tracking this man?
Well, there are unconfirmed reports that his own family turned him in. Law enforcement officials say they will neither confirm nor deny those reports. We do expect to get more information tomorrow.
Anthony Collins, live in Washington. Thanks. As Anthony said, we'll continue to bring you more information on this, another major story breaking today.
And as Prime News continues, when we come back, more on the life and career of Commerce Secretary Ron Brown, missing and presumed dead in the crash of a plane along the coast of Croatia.
Prime News is brought to you by Jaguar Cars. For more information, call 1-800-4JAGUAR.
They say, surround yourself with Earth's forms and you'll find tranquility. In the presence of power, you'll achieve peace of mind. Remove yourself from chaos and you'll experience rejuvenation. Hence, our newest edition, Wide Open Spaces. Introducing the longer, roomier Jaguar Vanden Pla.
It's challenging. That's what I love about it. I trust my instincts.
It's different running your own business.
My work is everything. It's pure adrenaline.
Every decision comes down to you. It takes confidence. It gives me a sense of pride.
It calls on resources you never knew you had. Like the corporate card from American Express.
Call now and apply right over the phone.
Because control is in the details. You get quarterly reports by category.
Simplifies bookkeeping.
Small business savings, like 3% off mobile gas, 10% off UPS overnight delivery, up to 15% off Hertz, and up to 25% off Hilton hotels. Even accident disability insurance free.
That's important.
And we put your company's name on the card, because you are the company.
I like what it says
People
about it.
recognize it. It's the best card to have.
Every day, more than 1 million small business owners rely on the corporate card. See how it can help you.
It's hard to do business without it.
Call 1-800-SUCCESS now.
We'll take your application right over the phone.
Because meeting the challenge is what you do best.
I wouldn't work this hard for anyone but me.
Tonight on CNN's Larry King Live, U.S. Commerce Secretary Ron Brown aboard a plane which crashed in the Balkans. Friends and colleagues talk about the man, his mission, and the terrible events of the day. Tonight, 9 Eastern on CNN.
President Clinton today said Ron Brown was a magnificent life force. Brown's early life was in Harlem, where his father managed a hotel. He attended Middlebury College and earned a law degree at St. John's University. He spent 12 years with the National Urban League, and in 1988, he was the convention manager for the Reverend Jesse Jackson's presidential bid. The next year, he became the first African-American chairman of a major U.S. political party at the Democratic National Committee, where in the early 80s he had been deputy chairman. As Commerce Secretary, Brown had been dogged by allegations of scandal involving his business ties, leading to the appointment of an independent counsel to investigate. And he has been both praised and criticized for his frequent trade missions, praised by those who saw them generating new business for U.S. companies, criticized by those who saw them as expensive paybacks for Democratic donors.
Joining us now are two people who know Ron Brown well. The Reverend Joseph Lowry is president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and chairman of the National Black Leadership Forum. And in our Washington bureau, Charles Manat, who was chairman of the Democratic National Committee from 1981 to 84 when Ron Brown was deputy chairman, and who eventually succeeded him. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight at what I presume is a difficult and sad time for both of you. Mr. Manat, let me begin with you because you knew Ron Brown for about 20 years or so. What are your personal reflections at this time?
Well, I think we're talking about a magnificent man who dearly loved his family, his friends. He was deeply committed to the work of the party as far as economic justice and social justice. I think as Commerce Secretary, in many ways, from the business standpoint in the United States, he was the star of the cabinet. So truly a magnificent man we're mourning tonight.
Is it difficult for you to be speaking of him in a past tense at a time when we are not given confirmation that he has indeed died in this crash, but is missing and presumed dead?
It certainly is difficult, and I hope he is more than brought back to us. But under the circumstances, we certainly have in mind a wonderful family that Ron and Elma have, and all of the children.
Reverend Lowry, you first met Ron Brown during his work with the Urban League. How would you characterize him as a man versus as a career politician?
Well, I think one of Ron Brown's secret weapons was his uncanny capacity to bring conflicting parties together for the common good. He was I wouldn't classify him as a civil rights activist, but he was a civil rights diplomat. And with the Urban League, he was able to work his way through complex situations and bring out of them a good for the advocacy he embraced and for the organization he served, and for the country and for poor people and students, others who aspired for a better life. He was a civil rights diplomat who was able to resolve very difficult problems.
Is his loss going to be especially felt within the African-American community in the country, Reverend Lowry? Because Furman Sessions, who's the executive secretary of the Chicago Southside chapter of the NAACP, said earlier today, he is a quintessential figure in the black community. He was not born to wealth, becomes educated, becomes a talented lawyer, savvy, persuasive, and articulate, but someone who could compromise, as you were just mentioning.
He could, and I think perhaps, and I'm very proud of what Ron did as Secretary of Commerce. He was a trailblazer. We've never had an African-American to occupy that kind of post. We were usually in some social service kind of thing, like HUD, that sort of thing. But Ron Brown carried his law degree, but more than that, his degree in human experience and with human relations into the Commerce Department, and became an emissary for the marketplace economy all over the world. But my greatest admiration is in Mr. Minot's field, where Ron walked a tightrope during the Clinton campaign. Nobody thought Clinton could win, and especially when Clinton campaign was leaning toward the conservatives to try to woo away Bush supporters. That tended to alienate him from the black community. But because black community people had such confidence in Ron Brown, he was able to put out those fires and encourage black support for Clinton because of Ron Brown.
Well, there was a terrific quote from earlier today from Wilbert Tatum, who is the publisher of the Amsterdam News in Harlem, and he said, basically, to have a black man heading the Democratic National Committee and get a white Southerner elected as President of the United States is an incredible feat. Your response to that, Mr. Minot?
Well, I think it truly is. I think it truly is, and what the Reverend said is so well exemplified in politics. And earlier times, Ron had negotiating responsibility on behalf of Senator Kennedy when he was running in 79 and 80. Later on, in 1988, he was really the principal negotiator for Reverend Jackson as he was laying his plans for the 1988 Atlanta Convention. On and on, Ron had just such a wholeness to him and really a friendly manner with all of us that he could negotiate the most difficult of things and come out being well thought of by both sides.
Well, I'm sure many people are going to have different perspectives in terms of what they will view as his greatest legacy. I know for the troops in Bosnia, perhaps one of the last things they'll remember from earlier today was the way he delivered some McDonald's Big Macs to them and some sports videotapes, including the tape of the just concluded NCAA basketball tournament. What do each of you view as being, in your view, the greatest legacy that he will leave to us? Reverend Lowry?
I think his greatest legacy may be that he established beyond a shadow of a doubt that with equal opportunity, an African-American could climb any ladder, overcome any barrier, achieve any goal. What he did as chairperson of the Democratic National Committee at a time when not only a Southerner, but a man who was playing footsie with the conservatives became president, and what he has done as Secretary of Commerce in resulting in $40 to $50 billion for business with America, not only in the third world, but here now in Bosnia, where the Negro population or the black population, the African-American population is probably non-existent. I think breaking barriers with intelligence, with acumen and astuteness, that will be his great legacy.
And Mr. Minot, with the closing time we have left, we'll give the last word to you.
Well, I would agree again with Reverend Lowry as the party chairman. He was the great unifier. We'd been out of power so long, we really wanted to win in 1992. He brought us together and was able to do it. As Commerce Secretary, he very much was the trade minister as far as promotion of trade to the whole world. No one has a better record than Ron Brown.
Charles Minot, former chairman of the Democratic National Committee, and Reverend Joseph Lowry, president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Thanks to you both for sharing your perspectives with us at this difficult time. Natalie?
All is quiet in eastern Montana, where the free men are still holed up on a ranch and FBI agents are waiting outside. The standoff has been going on for 10 days now. Richard Clark is the only member of the anti-government group to surrender so far. Today, he was back in court and ordered held without bail. Relatives of other free men want attorney Jerry Spence to serve as a mediator between them and the FBI. Spence successfully represented Randy Reber after his confrontation with federal agents in Ruby Ridge, Idaho. On Wall Street, trading was subdued as everyone waited for word on Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and his delegation of business executives. But by the closing bell, the Dow was up, hitting a new all-time high. Broader and secondary markets also were on the rise.
To campaign politics now, and word that New Hampshire's popular Republican governor will not seek re-election when his term expires at year's end. Steve Merrill gained national prominence when leading Bob Dole's presidential campaign effort during New Hampshire's first-in-the-nation primary in February. In an emotional news conference today, Merrill ended speculation he would challenge fellow Republican Bob Smith for his U.S. Senate seat. Merrill is in his second term as governor. So why is he stepping down? Merrill says he wants to spend more time with his family and accomplished all he wanted to as governor.
I love this state and I love its citizens. And I want to assure you that I will continue to be a voice for fiscal sanity and restraint and for an improved quality of life for every citizen here. I have been blessed by achieving things in my life that I never dreamed possible because good men and women in New Hampshire fought to give me those opportunities.
Merrill will continue to play an advisory role in Dole's presidential campaign.
Free time in prime time. It could be a part of Campaign 96. A group of former network news anchors, senators, and former political party chairmen wants the networks to offer between 2 and 5 minutes a night to presidential candidates in the month leading up to the November election. Fox Television has already offered free time to leading candidates, but the other networks are reluctant, fearing lost revenue and viewers.
And we have this reminder for you. A full roundup of the day's political news is coming up on Inside Politics. That's at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, here on CNN.
CNN's coverage of Campaign 96 is brought to you by Chrysler. Form follows function.
There were 2 times when we wanted our customers to really appreciate the new Chrysler Sebring convertible. Day and night. We literally redefined the convertible from the ground up.
Of course, sunny skies and starry nights aren't the only reasons to own this car.
It's quieter than you'd expect.
Cab forward provides more interior room as well as a more stable ride.
It truly is a car that gives you the sun, the moon,
and an actual backseat.
Hey, is that what I think it is? Yeah, it's my new Wagner power painter. Well, can you edge with it? Yeah, you can edge like this, or adjust it to control the paint up close. And when I'm done, I'm gonna switch nozzles and stain my deck. Do a lot of other jobs I've been meaning to do. Well, does it clean up easy? Yeah, it's quicker than you think.
Why am I painting this by hand?
Good question. Get a Wagner.
Our distribution costs are up again, way up. We need some smart answers now.
Maybe we need someone to start asking the right questions.
It's time to call Ruan, the transportation management professionals. Ruan works to learn your business, find the source of your distribution problems, and recommend solutions to reduce costs. Start asking the right questions. Call for your free Right Questions kit today. Ruan, improving quality through knowledge.
Everybody has morning breath. Unfortunately, not everybody has scope.
A terrorist war waged on American soil. It could happen. The Enemy Within. Tom Clancy calls it absolutely the best thriller I've read in years. Larry Bond's The Enemy Within from Warner Books.
Finally, great popcorn from your microwave.
Power Pop.
Presto Power Pop Microwave Multi-Popper.
Power Pop.
Pops virtually every kernel. Pop with oil, pop without oil. Nothing pops like Power Pop. That's why it's endorsed by Orville Redenbacher.
Power Pop.
From Presto.
Sunday on CNN Presents, 10 years after the world's worst nuclear accident. Could Chernobyl be a nightmare waiting to happen again? On the next CNN Presents, Sunday, 9 Eastern.
For a multimedia look at today's news, we invite you to check out CNN Interactive on the World Wide Web at CNN.com. You can access our site through AT&T Business Network.
Well, as his family and friends keep vigil at his home in Washington, tributes to Ron Brown keep pouring in.
And a lot of them have to do with his efforts at promoting the U.S., but others recall the man, not the public servant.
Ron Brown walked and ran and flew through life. And he was a magnificent life force. And those of us who loved him will always be grateful for his friendship and his warmth.
The legacy is that American businesses and the American products are the best in the world, and that he wanted to make sure that other countries knew that.
He was in his full stride, traveling across the world, connecting people, building a communications network for economic growth, which he thought was a hope for the country. Ron Brown was a world citizen.
In our opinion, in our little section of Commerce, certainly has been one of the most, if not the most active Secretaries of Commerce to promote business on a personal basis.
His ability to positively affect the lives of other people and to create within the hearts of other people a desire to want to do more and to be more and to bring together all the diverse elements of this country is phenomenal. That is what people remember most about Ron, and his warmth, his passion, his humor, but most of all, a spirit that would not be denied.
Commerce Secretary Ron Brown missing and presumed dead in the crash of an Air Force plane off the coast of Croatia. Of course, we will bring you more coverage on this throughout the night here on CNN. That wraps up Prime News for this Wednesday. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lyndon Souls.
I'm Natalie Allen. Inside Politics is next, and here's Judy Woodruff with a preview. Judy.
Thanks, Natalie and Lyndon. The latest on the crash of the plane carrying Commerce Secretary Ron Brown. We'll look at his impact on national politics and trace his steps from Harlem to the halls of power. Inside Politics is next.